The mop felt heavy in Kang Doyen's hands. Water dripped from the dirty strings onto the metal floor. He pushed it back and forth, watching the gray water spread across the deck. This was his life now, cleaning floors on a ship that belonged to aliens who hated him. 3 years ago, Doyen had been the best student at Earth's military academy. He scored perfect marks in every test. His instructors said he would do great things. They were wrong, or maybe the aliens made sure they were wrong. The Eternal Vanguard was a massive warship. It belonged to the Galactic Coalition, a group of 7 alien species who ruled most of the known galaxy. Humans had joined the Coalition 23 years ago. Earth's leaders said it was an honor. They said humanity would finally have a place among the stars. But Doyen learned the truth quickly. Humans were not partners. They were servants. Worse than servants. They were things the aliens could use and throw away. A shadow fell across the wet floor. Doyen looked up and saw Commander Veltrix standing there. The Vorgash commander was tall, nearly 7 feet. His scales were dark green and his eyes were yellow with black slits. When he smiled, Doyen could see rows of sharp teeth. "Still cleaning, human?" Veltrix said. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "This is good work for your kind. Simple work. Not much thinking required." Doyen said nothing. He had learned that talking back only made things worse. He kept his eyes down and continued mopping. "I remember you," Veltrix continued. "You came here with high scores. Top of your class, they said. But what good are human scores?" He laughed. "You are weak. Soft bodies, slow reflexes. You break so easily." The commander walked away, still laughing. Doyen's hands tightened on the mop handle. He wanted to say something. He wanted to show them he was not weak. But he stayed quiet. That was what humans did on the Eternal Vanguard. They stayed quiet and did what they were told. Later that day, all the humans on the ship were called to the briefing room. There were only 17 of them. Doyen stood in the back row next to Yoon Hana. She was the only friend he had on this ship. She whispered to him, "What do you think this is about?" "Nothing good," Doyen whispered back. Commander Veltrix entered the room. Behind him came Lieutenant Thrace, an insectoid officer with 4 arms and compound eyes that glittered like black glass. The room fell silent. "Humans," Veltrix began. "We have a mission for you. A derelict ship has been found in Sector 9. It is infested with hostile drones. These drones have killed several of our best soldiers. We need the ship cleared." Lieutenant Thrace clicked his mandibles. "This is dangerous work. Very dangerous, but perfect for humans. You are expendable." Some of the aliens in the room laughed. Doyen felt his stomach turn cold. Expendable. That was what they thought of humans. Not soldiers. Not people. Just things to be used up and thrown away. "You will leave in 2 hours, Veltrix said. Dismissed. In the armory, Doyen checked his weapon. It was old. The power cell was half drained. His armor had cracks in it. Hana stood beside him, checking her own equipment. Her face was pale. "Doyen," she said quietly. "They want us to die." "I know, so what do we do?" Doyen looked at her. "We survive. We come back. And we show them they are wrong about us." The derelict ship was called the Morning Star. It hung in space like a dead thing, dark and silent. Doyen's transport pod docked with the airlock. The 13 humans moved through the entrance one by one. Their helmet lights cut through the darkness. The ship was quiet. Too quiet. Doyen could hear his own breathing inside his helmet. His heartbeat was loud in his ears. They moved down a corridor lined with broken lights and tangled wires. Then the drones attacked. They came from everywhere at once. Small machines with spinning blades and plasma cutters. They moved fast, faster than anything Doyen had ever seen. The first human fell within seconds, his suit cut open, blood floating in the zero gravity. "Fall back," someone shouted, but there was nowhere to fall back to. The drones had them surrounded. Doyen fired his weapon, hitting one drone. It exploded in a shower of sparks, but 10 more took its place. Around him, humans were dying. He heard their screams through the comm channel. Hana was beside him, firing her weapon in controlled bursts. Then a drone hit her from the side. Its blade cut through her armor. She screamed and went down. Blood leaked from the wound, forming red bubbles in the air. "Hana!" Doyen grabbed her, pulling her behind a piece of wreckage. She was still alive, but badly hurt. Her breathing was rapid and shallow. The drones kept coming. Doyen's mind raced. There had to be a way to stop them. He looked at his helmet's display. The drones were using a specific frequency to communicate. He could see it on his scanner. What if he could disrupt it? His emergency beacon. It was designed to send out a strong signal. If he could modify it, change its frequency, maybe he could jam the drone's communication. It was a crazy idea, but he had no other choice. With shaking hands, Doyen opened the panel on his suit and rewired the beacon. He pulled 3 wires loose and connected them to different ports. He had no idea if this would work, but he had to try. He activated the beacon. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the drone stopped. They hovered in the air, their lights flickering. Their spinning blades slowed down, and then one by one they fell to the floor. Doyen couldn't believe it. It worked. He had actually stopped them. Around him, the few surviving humans stared in shock. Out of 13, only 4 were still alive. 4, including him and Hana. He carried Hana back to the transport. The other 2 survivors helped him. They cleared the ship of the remaining drones and returned to the Eternal Vanguard. Doyen expected praise. He expected someone to acknowledge what he had done. He had saved the mission. He had found a solution the Coalition's best soldiers had missed. Instead, Commander Veltrix was waiting for them in the docking bay. His face was twisted with anger. The moment Doyen stepped off the transport, the commander grabbed him by the collar. 9 humans died, Veltrix hissed. 9, and you hid while they fought. You are a coward. I saved Hana, Doyen said. I stopped the drones. I completed the mission. You did nothing. The commander threw him to the ground. The drones malfunctioned. That is the only reason you survived. You are worthless, human. Worthless! The other survivors tried to speak up. They told the commander what Doyen had done. But their words meant nothing. They were human. Their testimony did not matter. Doyen was demoted. Instead of being a soldier, he was assigned to waste reclamation. The worst job on the ship. He would spend his days processing garbage and sewage in the lower decks. That night he stood in the small bathroom assigned to human crew. The mirror was cracked and dirty. He looked at his reflection. His face was covered in grime. His eyes looked hollow, empty. This was what he had become. This was what the aliens had made him. 3 days later, Hana came to see him before she was transferred to another ship. She had recovered from her wounds. She stood in the doorway of the waste processing room and looked at him with sad eyes. Doyen, she said softly. He did not look at her. He kept working, his hands deep in filthy water. Don't let them break you, Hana said. Please, you saved my life. You saved all of us. Don't forget that. She stepped closer. We are not worthless. No matter what they say, we are not worthless. Then she was gone. Doyen stood alone in the waste processing room. Around him, machines hummed and churned. The smell was terrible. His hands were raw and bleeding from the harsh chemicals. This was his life now. This was what humanity's place in the galaxy looked like. But somewhere deep inside, beneath the exhaustion and pain and shame, something was changing. A small spark of anger was beginning to burn. They called him worthless. They called all humans worthless. Maybe one day he would show them how wrong they were. Maybe one day, they would learn that underestimating humans was the biggest mistake they could make. For now, he just kept working. But he did not forget Hana's words. And he did not forget what the aliens had done to him. The memory burned in his mind like a brand. Someday things would be different. Someday. 6 months passed like a bad dream. Doyen barely remembered the days anymore. They all blended together into one long blur of pain and exhaustion. He was no longer on the Eternal Vanguard. The Coalition had transferred him to Station Gamma 7, an orbital mining colony at the edge of civilized space. The station was old. The air recyclers made strange noises. The gravity generators flickered sometimes, making everyone feel sick. This was where the Coalition sent beings they did not want. Criminals, troublemakers, and humans. There were 42 humans on Station Gamma 7. All of them had been sent here for the same reason. They had asked questions. They had spoken up. They had dared to suggest that maybe, just maybe, humans deserved better treatment. Doyen met them in the mess hall on his first day. The food was gray and tasted like plastic. But it was food, so he ate it. A man sat down across from him. He was older, maybe 40, with scars on his hands and tired eyes. Park Minho, the man said, offering his hand. Engineer. Or I used to be. Doyen shook his hand. Kang Doyen, waste processor. Minho smiled sadly. We all have fancy titles here. Mine is resource management specialist. Means I fix the machines that dig up rocks. What did you do to end up here? I survived, Doyen said. Minho nodded. He understood. That is enough for them to hate you. A woman joined them. She was younger, maybe 30, with short black hair and sharp eyes. Her name was Choi Isol. She had been a medic before the coalition court-martialed her. Her crime was reporting that alien commanders had abandoned human colonies during pirate raids. She had evidence, documents, recordings, none of it mattered. They said I was lying, Isul explained. They said humans make things up for attention. Then they sent me here. Over the following weeks, Doyen heard more stories. Every human on the station had been betrayed by the coalition. Every single one. Some had been blamed for equipment failures that were not their fault. Others had been punished for accidents that alien supervisors caused. A few had simply asked for better safety equipment. The station was run by Overseer Krill, an avian alien with gray feathers and a cruel beak. He walked on 2 legs like a bird but stood as tall as a man. His eyes were cold and black. He treated the humans like insects. The work was brutal. The humans mined rare minerals from asteroids. They went out in old suits with failing life support systems. The tunnels they dug were unstable. Cave-ins happened almost every week. But Overseer Krill did not care. Humans were cheap. If one died, the coalition would send another. One day, Doyen was working deep in a tunnel with 5 other humans. The walls were made of ice and rock. Their cutting tools sent vibrations through everything. Doyen felt uneasy. The tunnel felt wrong. The support beams looked weak. We should go back, he said. A woman named Kim Nari looked at him. Krill will punish us if we do not meet quota. This tunnel is not safe. None of them are safe, Nari said. But she looked worried too. Then they heard it. A deep groaning sound. The walls started to shake. Dust fell from the ceiling. Doyen's heart jumped into his throat. Run! Someone shouted. They ran. Behind them, the tunnel collapsed. Tons of rock and ice came crashing down. The sound was deafening. Doyen made it out. So did Nari and 2 others. But 17 humans were trapped inside, buried alive. Doyen ran to the comm station. He called Overseer Krill. The avian's face appeared on the screen, looking annoyed. The tunnel collapsed, Doyen said, trying to keep his voice steady. We have 17 people trapped. We need rescue equipment now. Krill tilted his head. Rescue equipment is expensive. There are people dying in there. Humans, Krill corrected. The cost of equipment exceeds the value of 17 human workers. Rescue operation denied. Resume mining in Tunnel 4. The screen went black. For a moment, Doyen just stared at it. Then rage flooded through him. Pure burning rage. He turned to the other humans who had gathered. We are getting them out, he said. Park Minho stepped forward. Krill will not allow it. I do not care what Krill allows. Are we going to leave them to die? The humans looked at each other. Then one by one, they nodded. They grabbed whatever tools they could find. Cutting torches, plasma cutters, even simple shovels. They went back to the collapsed tunnel and started digging. It took 12 hours. 12 hours of nonstop digging. Their hands bled. Their muscles screamed. But they did not stop. They could not stop. Those were their people in there. Their friends. Their family. Minho used his engineering knowledge to figure out where the trapped miners would be. Isul prepared medical supplies. Doyen dug until his hands were raw and his arms felt like they would fall off. But he kept going. Finally, they broke through. The trapped miners were alive. All 17 of them. They were hurt and scared, but alive. The humans pulled them out one by one. There were tears. There was laughter. For a moment, they forgot where they were. Then Overseer Krill arrived with security drones. His feathers were ruffled in anger. His black eyes glittered with rage. You disobeyed a direct order, he screeched. You used equipment without authorization. You abandoned your work assignments, Doyen stood up. He was covered in dust and blood. But he met the Overseer's eyes without fear. We saved 17 lives, human lives, worthless lives. As punishment, you will all spend 1 week in detention. Rations will be cut by half. The detention cells were small and cold. Doyen sat alone in the darkness. But he was not thinking about the cold or the hunger. He was thinking about what he had heard through the ventilation shaft. 2 alien technicians had been talking. They did not know a human was in the cell below them. Or maybe they did not care. They talked about the tunnel collapse. about how the coalition had known the tunnels were unstable, about how they had sent humans there anyway. It is an experiment, one technician said. They want to know how much stress humans can survive, how long they can work without proper equipment, what conditions will kill them. Why would they need to know that? The other asked. For the war calculations, obviously. If war comes, they need to know how many humans they can spend. Doyen felt something inside him break, or maybe it was the last piece of hope dying. They were not soldiers. They were not even slaves. They were test subjects, lab rats. The coalition was running experiments on humans to see how disposable they were. When he was released from detention, Doyen found Minho and Isol. He told them what he had heard. Their faces went pale, but there was something else in their eyes too. Anger. The same anger Doyen felt. We need to leave, Isul said quietly. Desertion is punishable by death, Minho reminded her. Staying here is also death, just slower. Doyen looked at them both. Can we actually do it? Can we escape? Minho was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, maybe. I have access to the maintenance systems. I have been looking at things. Coalition databases, security protocols, supply ship schedules. That is treason, Isul said. Only if we get caught. Over the next weeks, they planned. Minho discovered more information in the coalition databases. Information that changed everything. Records of human combat performance, test results, psychological profiles, and all of it had been suppressed. The truth was stunning. Humans were not weak. They were not inferior. In fact, in many ways, they were superior to the coalition species. Their reaction times were faster. Their pattern recognition was better. Their ability to adapt and improvise was unmatched. But the coalition had hidden this information. They had fed humans false data, made them believe they were worthless, made them accept their place as servants and cannon fodder, because the coalition was afraid of what humans might become if they knew the truth. We need to show this to everyone, Doyen said, looking at the data on Minho's hidden tablet. Every human needs to know. First, we need to survive, Minho said. A supply transport arrives in 3 days. If we can take control of it, then we can escape, they told the other humans. Not everyone wanted to go. Some were too afraid. Some did not believe escape was possible. But 31 agreed to try. 31 humans who had nothing left to lose. The night of the escape was dark. The station's lights were dimmed to save power. The supply transport had docked an hour ago. Its crew was in the mess hall eating. Doyen and the others moved quietly through the corridors. Minho had disabled the security cameras. Isul had drugged the food in the mess hall with sedatives from the medical bay. Everything went according to plan. Almost too well. Doyen felt nervous. In his experience, things never went this smoothly. They reached the transport. It was a small ship meant for cargo, not people, but it would hold them. Barely. They climbed aboard and sealed the hatch. Minho went to the cockpit and started the engines. That was when the alarms went off. Overseer Krill's voice came over the station's speakers. It was high and screeching with rage. Security drones poured into the docking bay. Energy weapons fired. The transport's hull rang with impacts. Hold on, Minho shouted. He pushed the engines to full power. The transport lurched forward, breaking free of the docking clamps. They shot out of the bay into open space. Behind them, coalition patrol ships were launching. Their weapons charged, lighting up the darkness. Doyen watched through the rear viewport. This was it. They had done it. They had actually escaped, but where could they go? The coalition controlled everything. Every system. Every planet. Every space station. There was nowhere to hide. The shattered belt was beautiful in a terrible way. Broken ships floated everywhere like metal ghosts. Some were as small as houses. Others were huge, bigger than cities. They had been there for thousands of years, slowly spinning in the darkness. Ancient weapons from a war that nobody remembered. The transport sensors went crazy. Radiation warnings flashed red. The ship shook as it dodged chunks of debris. Minho gripped the controls so hard his knuckles turned white. Everyone else held on to whatever they could find. There, Isul pointed at the scanner. That asteroid. It has an atmosphere bubble. Old terraforming equipment, maybe. Minho guided the transport toward it. They landed hard, the ship's damaged landing gear groaning. When the engines finally shut down, everyone sat in silence. They were alive. Somehow, impossibly, they were alive. Doyen was the first to speak. We need to check for other survivors. If we made it here, maybe others did too. They explored the asteroid carefully. It was bigger than it looked from space. Inside they found caverns and tunnels, old equipment that still worked. And then they found something that changed everything. People, humans, hundreds of them. The colony had been here for 7 years. 412 humans who had fled Coalition service and made their home in this dangerous place. They had built shelters in the asteroids. They grew food in underground gardens. They survived where the Coalition said survival was impossible. Their leader was Admiral Lee Jiho. He had been a high-ranking officer in Earth's fleet before the Coalition. Now he was an old man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. He welcomed Doyen's group with surprising warmth. "We wondered when more would come," Admiral Lee said. "The Coalition's treatment of humans has been getting worse. We knew it was only a matter of time." That night the colony held a meeting. Admiral Lee stood before everyone and spoke the truth that Doyen had suspected, but never fully understood. Earth's government sold us out. They made a deal with the Coalition. Advanced technology and protection in exchange for human labor. They knew humans would be treated as slaves. They did not care. The room erupted in angry voices, but Admiral Lee raised his hand for silence. There was more. Much more. A woman stepped forward. She was young, maybe 30, with sharp eyes and confident movements. "I am Dr. Kang Sora," she said. "I study alien technology, and I have discovered something important." Doyen felt his heart stop. Kang, his family name. He looked closer at her face and saw features he recognized. Features he had not seen in 8 years. "Sora," she turned and their eyes met. For a moment, neither spoke. Then she smiled. "Hello, little brother." Doyen could not believe it. They had told him Sora died in a training accident. The Coalition said her ship exploded. They had a funeral. His family mourned, but she was here, alive. She had faked her death to escape. Later, in private, Sora explained, "I found something the Coalition did not want anyone to know. Evidence of their experiments on humans. I was going to report it, but they tried to kill me first. So I ran. What did you find?" Doyen asked. Sora led him to her laboratory. It was carved into the asteroid rock and filled with strange equipment. In the center was a piece of technology unlike anything Doyen had ever seen. It glowed with a soft blue light. "This is precursor technology," Sora explained. "From a civilization that existed millions of years before the Coalition. The Coalition has found pieces of it scattered across the galaxy, but they cannot make it work. The technology does not respond to them, but it responds to humans." Sora nodded. "Our neural patterns are different. Our brains work in ways alien minds do not. This precursor technology was designed for beings who think like we do. The Coalition has known this for years. That is why they fear us." She showed him more. Weapons that only humans could fire. Shields that only humans could activate. Ships that only humans could pilot. All of it salvaged from the derelict vessels floating in the shattered belt. All of it working for humans in ways it never worked for the Coalition. "We have been building an arsenal," Sora said quietly, "preparing for the day when we would have enough people to use it. That day might be coming soon." Over the following months, Doyen trained. Admiral Lee put him through combat simulations using the precursor systems. The technology felt natural to him in a way Coalition equipment never had. It responded to his thoughts almost before he had them. His reaction times were incredible. His accuracy was perfect. One day, a man named Huang Taijin approached him. Taijin was a tactical genius who had been expelled from Coalition command for being too aggressive. He watched Doyen train and nodded approvingly. "You have natural talent," Taijin said. "But talent is not enough. You need to think like a hunter, not prey. The Coalition has made us feel like prey for too long. We must remember what humans really are. And what is that? Apex predators. We climbed to the top of Earth's food chain not because we were the biggest or strongest, but because we were the smartest, the most adaptable, the most relentless. That is what we must become again." Doyen trained harder. He learned tactics the Coalition never taught. Ambush strategies, psychological warfare, how to use an enemy's predictability against them, how to turn their strengths into weaknesses. But their peace did not last long. One day the colony's sensors detected ships approaching. Coalition ships. A strike force of 300 soldiers coming to eliminate the human colony. Admiral Lee called everyone together. The mood was grim. They were outnumbered badly, but they had no choice. If they ran, the coalition would just find them again. "This is our home," the admiral said. "These are our people. If the coalition wants this place, they will have to take it from us, and we will make them pay for every meter." Doyen volunteered to lead a strike team, 50 humans against 300 aliens. The odds were terrible. But they had advantages the aliens did not know about. They knew this asteroid field. They had precursor weapons, and they had something else too. They had stopped thinking like prey. The battle began when the coalition forces entered the asteroid field. They came in tight formation, just like military doctrine said they should. That was their first mistake. Doyen's team was waiting in the shadows between asteroids, their ships powered down, invisible. They struck from behind, from above, from places the aliens did not expect. Precursor weapons tore through coalition shields like paper. The aliens tried to regroup, but the humans were everywhere and nowhere. They used the asteroids as cover, popping out to fire and then disappearing again. The coalition commander tried to use standard tactics. He sent forces to flank the human positions, but there were no positions. The humans were mobile, constantly moving. When the aliens thought they had them surrounded, the humans were actually surrounding the aliens. Doyen flew his fighter through the chaos. He could feel the precursor systems responding to his thoughts. The ship moved like an extension of his body. He led a group of coalition fighters into a narrow canyon between asteroids, then pulled up hard at the last second. The aliens following him were not fast enough. They crashed into the rock walls. The battle lasted 3 hours. When it ended, the coalition forces retreated in confusion. They had lost over 100 ships. The humans lost 7 against more than 100. The aliens could not believe it, neither could the humans. They gathered in the main cavern, exhausted but alive. Some were injured. Some were crying. But they had won. For the first time in human history since joining the coalition, they had won a real battle. Admiral Lee stood before them with tears in his old eyes. He had seen humans beaten down for so long. Now he had seen them fight back and win. He raised his voice so everyone could hear. "The coalition called us weak. They called us worthless. They called us expendable. Today we showed them the truth. We are none of those things. We are human, and that means we do not quit. We do not break. We do not surrender." The cavern erupted in cheers. People hugged each other. They laughed and cried at the same time. They had been running for so long, hiding, surviving. Now, for the first time, they had fought back. That night, the colony held a vote. Should they stay hidden and hope the coalition forgot about them? Or should they take the fight to the enemy? The vote was unanimous. Every single person chose to fight. Admiral Lee looked at Doyen. "You led us to victory today. Will you lead us again?" Doyen thought about everything that had happened. The humiliation on the Eternal Vanguard, the betrayal at Station Gamma 7, the lies the coalition had told about humans, all the lives wasted because aliens thought humans were worthless. "Yes," he said, "but not just to fight. We need to free every human still serving in the coalition. We need to show them the truth. Show them what we really are." Admiral Lee smiled. "And what are we?" Doyen looked around at the faces in the cavern. At Minho and Isul, at his sister Sora, at Taejin, at all the humans who had been called worthless and had proven that was a lie. He thought about Yun Hana, still serving on some coalition ship, still believing she was inferior. We are the species that survived extinction events, that climbed out of caves and reached for the stars. We are the species that never ever gives up. We are human, and it is time the galaxy learned what that really means. The cheers were deafening. Doyen felt something he had not felt in years. Hope. Real hope, not the desperate kind that just wants to survive. The medical frigate drifted through space like a white angel. It had red markings that showed it was a mercy ship, not a warship. The coalition used these ships to treat wounded soldiers. This one had 73 humans working aboard. Doyen's team was about to give them all a choice. 6 months had passed since the battle in the Shattered Belt. 6 months of raids and rescues. Doyen's team had freed over 2,000 humans from coalition service. Each operation followed the same pattern. Strike fast, disable the alien commanders, show the humans the truth. Give them a choice. Some chose to stay. They were too afraid or too broken to believe freedom was real. Doyen let them go. He would not force anyone, but most chose to leave. Most wanted to be free. And when they learned the truth about human capabilities, when they saw the suppressed data, their eyes changed. They stopped looking down. They started looking up. Tonight's mission was different, though. Personal. The medical frigate was the same ship where Yoon Hana worked. His old friend? The woman who had told him not to let the aliens break him. He had not forgotten her. He would never forget her. Doyen's strike team moved through the frigate's corridors silently. They wore stealth suits that bent light around them. Precursor technology. The Coalition had no defense against it. They did not even know humans had it. The team split up. Half went to the medical bay where the humans worked. The other half, led by Do-yoon, went to the command deck. They needed to disable the ship's weapons and communications before the aliens could call for help. On the command deck, 3 Vorgash officers were on duty. They never saw Do-yoon coming. He hit them with stun weapons. Non-lethal, quick, clean. They would wake up in a few hours with headaches, but nothing worse. Do-yoon did not enjoy killing. He did it when necessary. But these aliens were just doing their jobs. They deserved a chance to live. With the command deck secured, Do-yoon activated the ship-wide intercom. His voice echoed through every corridor. Attention all human personnel. My name is Kang Do-yoon. I am here to offer you freedom. Go to the medical bay. Your alien supervisors have been neutralized. You are safe. It is time to choose. In the medical bay, the humans gathered nervously. They looked scared, confused. Some thought it was a trick. But then Do-yoon's team showed them the data. The suppressed files. The evidence of Coalition lies. The proof that humans were not inferior. Do-yoon entered the medical bay and scanned the faces. Then he saw her. Yoon Hana stood near the back, her eyes wide. For a moment, neither moved. Then recognition hit her. Do-yoon. Her hand moved toward her weapon. Instinct. Years of Coalition training told her he was a terrorist. A traitor. But then she stopped. She looked at him. Really looked. This was not the broken man she had left in a waste processing room. This was someone different. Someone strong. Hello, Hana, Do-yoon said softly. I told you I would not let them break me. He showed her everything. The truth about the drone mission that nearly killed her. It had not been bad intelligence. The Coalition had known exactly how dangerous those drones were. They sent humans in anyway, a test, to see how many would survive, to calculate human survival rates for their war planning. Hana's face went pale, then red, then very, very cold. She looked at the data for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady but filled with rage. They knew I would almost die. They knew the others would die. And they sent us anyway. Yes. We were never soldiers to them. We were lab rats. Yes, Hana was quiet for a moment. Then she looked at Do-yoon with fierce eyes. Where do I sign up? 68 humans from the medical frigate chose to leave. Only 5 stayed behind. As Do-yoon's ships departed, he felt something warm in his chest. Relief. Joy. Having Hana back felt like finding a missing piece of himself. But the Coalition was not going to let this continue. They had labeled Do-yoon a terrorist, a threat to galactic peace. The bounty on his head was enormous, and now they had assigned their best hunter to find him, Commander Veltrix. The same Vorgash who had humiliated Do-yoon years ago. The same alien who had called him worthless. Now Veltrix was obsessed with catching the human who had embarrassed the Coalition. He studied every raid, every attack, looking for patterns, and he found one. Do-yoon always targeted ships with high numbers of human crew. He always offered them a choice. He was predictable, and predictable enemies could be trapped. Veltrix created a fake manifest. A Coalition transport ship supposedly carrying 500 human workers. He leaked the information where he knew Do-yoon's people would find it. Then he waited with 100 elite Vorgash shock troops. Do-yoon's intelligence network found the information. A transport with 500 humans. It was too good to pass up. But something felt wrong. Hana noticed it too. This could be a trap, she said. I know. So what do we do? Do-yoon smiled. We spring it. But on our terms. Do-yoon's team boarded the transport ship carefully. 30 humans against what they assumed would be an ambush. They moved through the corridors with weapons ready. The ship was too quiet, too empty. Then the trap closed. Blast doors sealed behind them. Lights came on. 100 Vorgash warriors stepped out of hiding, weapons raised. At the front stood Commander Veltrix. He was smiling, showing all those sharp teeth. "Hello, human," Veltrix said. "I remember you. The worthless one from the Eternal Vanguard, the one who hid while his friends died. Did you really think you could fight the Coalition?" Doyen looked at him calmly. "I knew it was a trap." "Then you are even more foolish than I thought. Surrender now. You cannot win." "You are right about one thing," Doyen said. "I cannot win." "Not alone. Good thing I am not alone." Explosions rocked the ship. Doyen had brought more than 30 people. He had brought 200. They had been waiting in stealth ships attached to the transport's hull. Now they cut through the walls and poured in from every direction. The battle was chaos, close quarters combat in narrow corridors. Vorgash warriors were bigger and stronger, but humans were faster and more creative. They used the environment, kicked off walls, slid under attacks, turned the aliens' strength against them. Hana fought beside Doyen. She moved like a dancer, graceful and deadly. Years of medical training made her know exactly where to strike to disable, but not kill. She took down 3 Vorgash without even breathing hard. Veltrix watched his perfect trap fall apart. His elite troops were losing to humans. Impossible. Humans were weak. They were nothing. But these humans fought like devils. They did not retreat. They did not break. They just kept coming. Finally, only Veltrix remained. His troops were down, unconscious or wounded but alive. Doyen had given orders not to kill unless absolutely necessary. These Vorgash warriors would wake up with a new understanding of what humans could do. Veltrix backed into the command center. Doyen followed him alone. This was personal. The commander was bigger, stronger, with sharp claws and armored scales. But he looked afraid. For the first time, he looked afraid. "You are nothing," Veltrix hissed. "You will always be nothing." Doyen moved. Fast. Faster than the Vorgash expected. He ducked under Veltrix's claws and struck at pressure points. Human medical knowledge. Human speed. Human precision. The commander went down hard. Doyen stood over him. "You are right. To you we were nothing. That was your first mistake. Your second was believing it would stay that way." He could have killed Veltrix. Part of him wanted to. For the humiliation. For the friends who had died. For all the humans the Coalition had used and thrown away. But he did not. Instead, he did something worse. He picked up Veltrix's communication device and started recording. He showed the defeated Vorgash commander, the unconscious elite troops, the victorious humans. Then he spoke directly to the camera. "This message is for the Galactic Coalition. You called us weak. You called us worthless. You used us as slaves and test subjects. You lied about our capabilities because you were afraid of what we might become. Well, we have become it. Humanity is withdrawing from the Coalition. We will free every human in your space. Any attempt to stop us will end like this. You wanted soldiers? You made them. You wanted warriors? You created them. You wanted enemies? Congratulations. You have them." He sent the message to every Coalition frequency, every ship, every station, every planet. Within hours, it would be seen by billions of beings across the galaxy. The Coalition could not hide it, could not suppress it. The truth was out. Humans were not worthless. They were dangerous. And the galaxy was about to learn just how dangerous underestimated humans could be. Back at the Shattered Belt, Admiral Lee watched the message with tears in his eyes. Around him, thousands of freed humans cheered. They had done it. They had shown the Coalition the truth. They had proven their worth. But the celebration did not last long. Within days, the Coalition's response came. Not an apology, not an offer of peace, but an extermination order. All humans anywhere in Coalition space were to be eliminated. No exceptions, no mercy. The bounty on Doyen's head was now the highest ever placed on a single being. 1 billion credits. Enough to buy a planet. They wanted him dead that badly. Admiral Lee called a meeting. Everyone gathered, their faces serious. "This is it," the old admiral said. "Total war. They will not stop until we are all dead. So we have a choice. We can run and hide, or we can fight." Doyen stood up. "We fight, but not just to survive. We fight to win." The Coalition's extermination order backfired in ways they never expected. Every human in their space, millions of workers and technicians suddenly became enemies. Ships broke down because humans stopped fixing them. Stations went dark because humans stopped maintaining them. The entire infrastructure of the Coalition began to crumble. They had built their empire on human labor without realizing it. Now that foundation was collapsing. The aliens tried to do the work themselves, but they did not know how. Humans had been the ones keeping everything running. The coalition had taken credit for human work for so long that they forgot humans were doing it. On Earth, the government that had sold humanity to the coalition faced revolution. People rioted in the streets. They had learned the truth. Their leaders had traded human lives for alien technology, had let their people be enslaved. The corrupt officials tried to flee. Most did not make it. Ambassador Nam Yunji had been part of that government. She had helped negotiate the original deal with the coalition. For years she lived with that guilt. She told herself it was necessary. That Earth needed the coalition's protection. But deep down she knew the truth. She had betrayed her own species. When the riots began, Yunji could have fled like the others. Instead, she stole classified files from the government archives. Strategic data, military codes, everything that could help Doyen and the human resistance. Then she sent a message to the Shattered Belt. I cannot undo what I did, but I can help you end it. Here is everything you need to strike at the coalition's heart. The core nexus, their central command. Take it down and you can win this war. This is my confession, my apology, my redemption. Admiral Lee studied the data carefully. The core nexus was the most heavily defended installation in the galaxy. It orbited the coalition's capital world, protected by over 800 warships. Attacking it would be suicide. But Dr. Kang Sora had one more surprise. I finished it, she told her brother. The equalizer. She showed him a device built from precursor technology. It could emit a pulse that would disable coalition shield technology. One pulse and their entire defensive fleet would be vulnerable. It was humanity's secret weapon. Their one chance, the human fleet gathered, 200 ships, every vessel they had salvaged or stolen. Every ship they had built from scratch using precursor designs. It was not much compared to 800 coalition warships, but it was all they had. Doyen stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Vindication. Around him were Hana, Minho, Isol, Taijin, Sora, the people who had become his family. He looked at each of them. This is it. No retreat. No surrender. We win today or we die trying. Hana smiled. We have been dying this whole time. At least now we die free. The human fleet jumped into the core nexus system. The coalition was ready. 800 warships in perfect formation. They looked invincible. The human ships looked like toys next to them. On the core nexus, High Arbiter Quen watched the human fleet approach. He was the leader of the coalition council, an ancient being who had ruled for 2 centuries. He looked at the tiny human force and laughed. So the insects come to die, he said. Very well. Show them the power of the coalition. Destroy them all. The coalition fleet advanced, energy weapons charged. They would end this quickly. Then Sora activated the equalizer. The pulse spread across space at the speed of light. It hit every coalition ship simultaneously. Shields failed. Every single one. 800 warships suddenly became vulnerable. The coalition's perfect formation became a weakness. They were too close together. Too predictable. Exactly what Huang Tajin had hoped for. Now, Doyen shouted, the human fleet attacked. But not head-on. They scattered in every direction, used random patterns, flew in ways that made no tactical sense. The coalition tried to target them, but their computers could not predict the humans' movements. Because there was no pattern to predict, humans were flying on instinct. Some human ships pretended to surrender, getting close to coalition vessels before exploding. Kamikaze runs, suicide attacks. Tactics the coalition considered barbaric, but they worked. Each human ship that sacrificed itself took down 3 coalition vessels. The battle became chaos. The coalition's advantage in numbers meant nothing when they could not coordinate. Their commanders kept shouting orders, but the humans did not follow military doctrine. They did whatever worked, used every dirty trick, every desperate tactic, and slowly, impossibly, the humans started winning. Coalition ships exploded, drifted disabled, fled in panic. The perfect defense was falling apart. Doyen led a strike force of 10 ships toward the core nexus itself. They had to reach it. Had to end this. Behind them, the battle raged. Ahead, the nexus grew larger. A massive structure bigger than a city. The heart of coalition power. They breached the hull. Doyen's team fought through corridor after corridor. Blood covered the walls. both human and alien. The fighting was brutal. Hand to hand, no room for weapons, just fists and knives and desperate strength. They lost people, good people, friends, but they kept pushing forward. Because this was it. This was everything. All of human history had led to this moment. Either they won freedom today or they lost everything. Finally, they reached the command chamber. High Arbiter Quen waited there with his personal guard. 20 elite warriors, the best the Coalition had. They were massive beings, each one 3 times the size of a human. Armored, armed, terrifying. Quen looked at Doyen with ancient eyes. "Why?" he asked. "Why could you not just accept your place? We gave you food, shelter, protection. What more did you want?" Doyen was covered in blood and wounds, exhausted, but his voice was steady. "To be treated like people. Not pets, not tools. We are human, and you cannot chain the species that learned to stand upright by refusing to kneel." The guards attacked. Doyen's team met them. The fight was desperate. Hana went down with a wound in her side but kept fighting. Minho broke his arm but used it as a weapon anyway. Isil was thrown into a wall hard enough to crack the metal but got back up. Because humans do not quit. That is what the Coalition never understood. You can wound them. You can beat them. You can knock them down. But they will keep getting back up. They will keep fighting until they win or die. There is no middle ground. One by one, the guards fell. Finally, only Quen remained. The ancient arbiter grabbed an energy blade and attacked Doyen personally. He was old but still powerful. His strikes were precise, deadly. Doyen barely blocked them. They fought across the command chamber. Doyen was smaller, weaker, but he was faster, and he had something Quen did not. He had a reason to fight. Not for glory or power, but for freedom, for every human who had suffered, for every life the Coalition had wasted. He waited for his moment. Quen overextended on a strike. Doyen ducked under it and drove his combat knife into the arbiter's side. Not a killing blow. He wanted Quen alive. Wanted him to see what happened next. Quen collapsed. Doyen dragged himself to the communications panel. His hands shook as he activated every channel. Broadcast to every ship, every station, every planet in Coalition space. This is Kang Doyen. The Coalition Council is dissolved. The core nexus has fallen. The age of Coalition dominance is over. To all species who wish to live in peace with humanity as equals, you are welcome. To those who choose subjugation, you will be destroyed. We did not start this war, but we will end it. This galaxy belongs to all of us, not just the strong, not just the old, all of us, and humanity will make sure it stays that way. Outside in the space battle, Coalition ships began to retreat. Their command was gone. Their leadership was defeated. They had no idea what to do. Some surrendered, some fled. Some kept fighting, but without coordination they were picked apart. The battle ended with a human victory. Impossible, unthinkable, but real. 200 human ships against 800 Coalition warships, and the humans had won. The cost was terrible. Half their fleet was destroyed. Thousands dead, but they had won. The war did not end immediately. Some Coalition factions kept fighting, but the tide had turned. Other species saw what humans had done. Some offered alliance. Some offered trade. Some offered friendship. Real friendship between equals. On Earth, a new government formed, built by the people who had fought in the resistance. They created laws that said humans would never be slaves again, never be second-class citizens, never be considered worthless. The Shattered Belt became the foundation of a new human nation, independent, strong, free. They named it Haven, a place where any human could come and be safe, where they could remember what they really were. Years later, Doyen stood on the bridge of the Vindication. He was older now. Gray touched his hair. Scars covered his body, but his eyes were clear. Around him stood his friends. Hana was his second in command now. Minho ran the engineering corps. Isil headed medical services. Sora continued her research. They had all survived. A message came through. A Coalition splinter faction offering alliance, as equals asking for trade agreements, for mutual defense pacts, for friendship. Hana looked at Doyen. What do you think? Doyen thought about everything that had happened. The humiliation, the slavery, the war, the death, all because the Coalition thought humans were worthless, because they underestimated what humans could become. He smiled. Open a channel. Let us teach the galaxy what humanity really means. And across the galaxy, in schools and academies,